You know Ronda Rousey, you know Amanda Nunes, but what about the women fighting in silence?
Favelas.
Let's go.
Oh, Favelas caught us.
I wake up
Left
to a
hand
little
there
bit of
across
drool
the
on my
chin,
pillow,
and
feel
she-
like it's gonna be a bad
The ones
day.
grinding in empty gyms. No sponsorships, no lights, no crowds chanting their name. Somewhere in Lithuania, Portugal, Brazil, Poland, Mexico, in corners of the fight world you'll never see on pay-per-view. There are women breaking bones, breaking barriers, and breaking free from obscurity. While the cameras follow the champions, these warriors sharpen their skills in the shadows. Some dominate quietly in PFL Europe. Others carry their nations on their backs into the UFC cage. They come from favelas, from war-torn countries, from martial arts mats that smell like iron and hope. This is not a list of hype, but a tribute to the unseen backbone of women's MMA. Here are the top 10 women in MMA you've never heard of. The warriors rewriting the future of the sport, one quiet victory at a time. Ernesta Kareckaitė, the Silent Storm. In a small Lithuanian gym tucked between gray blocks, a quiet storm brews. That's where you'll find Ernesta Kareckaitė, the undefeated grappler, quietly dismantling Europe's toughest women in the Professional Fighters League. At first glance, she carries the calm of someone who doesn't need to talk about what she can do. But when the bell rings, that calm turns into a hurricane of precision and pressure. Born in Kaunas, Lithuania, Ernesta's roots are in Brazilian jiu-jitsu and judo. Women's MMA wasn't a clear path, but she kept training, building a ground game that's now one of the sharpest in PFL Europe. Her grappling isn't just technical, it's suffocating. Once she gets her hands on you, escape isn't an option. In 2023, Ernesta went undefeated through the PFL Europe season, submitting and out-grappling opponents with ease. Analysts started whispering, "Who is this Lithuanian girl?" Her style isn't flashy. She wins through control, patience, and composure. The kind that breaks opponents mentally before physically. Outside the cage, she's almost invisible. She trains, she wins, she goes home. But those who've rolled with her know the truth. Ernesta Kareckaitė is a future world champion hiding in plain sight. As PFL expands, Ernesta stands on the edge of opportunity. If her trajectory holds, it won't be long before the world knows the name that Europe's already whispering. Jacqueline Cavalcanti, from the Favelas to the UFC. Before the lights, before the roar of a crowd, there was struggle. Jacqueline Cavalcanti grew up between the hard edges of Brazil's favelas and the quiet ambition that took her to the UFC. Her story began in Recife, where survival was often the first fight of the day. Her first gym wasn't glamorous. It was hot, cramped, and reeked of old sweat. But there, she learned to turn pain into progress. Her journey through Europe's regional circuits was brutal. She fought in Cage Warriors, then became a standout in PFL Europe, carving a reputation as a well-rounded bantamweight. Her breakout came with a dominant PFL debut. Calm under pressure, ferocious in execution. Jacqueline represents the new generation of global MMA. Multilingual, multicultural, unbreakable. When she got the call to the UFC in 2023, it was justice. Years of grit, sacrifice, and cross-continental hustle finally paid off. Insiders already know, this woman isn't here to fill a roster. She's here to shake it. For Jacqueline Cavalcanti, fighting was about escaping gravity, showing the world that even from the favelas, you can rise. Beatriz Mesquita, the BJJ queen crossing over. The name Beatriz Mesquita carries weight. 10-time world BJJ champion, ADCC gold medalist. In grappling, she's royalty. In MMA, she's still a rookie. That's her paradox. Beatriz grew up in Rio de Janeiro, starting on the mat at age 5. Under the legendary Leticia Ribeiro, she became a prodigy, stacking gold medals on a destiny she seemed born for. But after conquering everything in grappling, she felt a new hunger. The mats could no longer contain her ambition. She walked away from BJJ dominance to start over in mixed martial arts, trading medals for bruises, glory for grind. In 2023, she made her professional MMA debut. While the world expected her to struggle, Beatriz shocked everyone. Her grappling translated beautifully. Her composure was ice cold, and she held her ground striking. She looked like a blueprint for how to bring world-class BJJ into modern MMA. Mesquita knows this mountain is different. Every time she steps into the cage, she carries the legacy of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu's female pioneers. She's here to test herself in the rawest form of combat there is. Her presence alone blurs the line between art and violence. Julija Stoliarenko, the Armbar assassin. If you know women's MMA, you've heard whispers about the Lithuanian who breaks arms for a living. Julija Stoliarenko. She's perfected one move so deadly, it's her signature, the armbar. Julija's story started in Kaunas, Lithuania. Life wasn't easy, but toughness was built into the culture. She mastered karate and BJJ before transitioning to MMA, where her aggression and grit found a perfect home. The moment you hit the mat with Julija, you're in danger. She burst onto the scene in Invicta FC, winning the bantamweight title with an armbar. When she got the UFC call, she wasn't there to survive, but to prove a point. Her fights are never boring. Win or lose, there's chaos, blood, and a toughness that feels supernatural. She's had to claw her way through every level of the sport with little support. Julija built herself through grit, reputation, and pain. In an era where MMA sometimes feels like a brand competition, Stoliarenko is a reminder of what it used to be. Raw, primal, honest. She fights for pride, for respect, and for the right to be counted among the sport's warriors. If you ever find yourself in her guard, remember, you're only one mistake away from history and a broken arm. Tereza Bledá, Europe's youngest UFC prospect. Soft-spoken, calm, and barely in her 20s, Tereza Bledá is the Czech prodigy who became the youngest female fighter in the UFC. Her story begins in a small Czech town, far from the spotlight, training in combat sports since she was a teenager. She was tall, strong, and built with an athlete's mind, balancing studies with brutal training sessions. When she transitioned to MMA, she was efficient, robotic in her control, cold in her pressure. By age 20, she was already dominating the Octagon MMA circuit. She entered Dana White's Contender Series as an unknown. Her grappling was suffocating, her control smothering. She moved with the patience of a veteran. Even without an immediate contract, she made her impression. The call eventually came, making her the youngest woman ever signed to the UFC. Tereza doesn't fight like she's chasing fame. She fights like she's testing herself against chaos. Every move is a calculation. In her UFC debut, she faced a brutal striker and took punishment, but instead of folding, she adapted mid-fight, wrestling her way to control. Her gift isn't just talent, it's her mind, her discipline, her ability to stay unshaken. Europe's women's MMA scene has long been overlooked, but Tereza Bledá is changing that. She's the future. Quietly terrifying, methodical, inevitable. Danni McCormack, Ireland's Ironheart. Ireland produces fighters with fire in their blood, but in Limerick, Danni McCormack was forged on pure, stubborn resilience. She's rewriting Irish MMA history, not with flash, but with heart. Danni was a working-class girl who found purpose in the cage. What started as fitness became an obsession. The discipline and grind fueled her. But what defines her story is how many times she refused to quit. When she joined Invicta FC, the all-women's US promotion, she was a small Irish fighter with no hype. Her early fights were rough, bloody wars, but she kept coming. Every loss was a lesson. Every time she bled, she built. In 2023, she did the impossible. Danni McCormack became the Invicta Strawweight World Champion, the first Irish woman to hold that belt. Her road required flying across continents, fighting with her own savings, and facing opponents with superior resources. Her style is classic Irish grit: forward pressure, relentless heart, and an engine that never stops. When it gets ugly, when both fighters are exhausted, Danni shines. She still trains out of small gyms and carries herself like she's fighting for rent money. While the world looks for the next viral knockout, Ireland knows they have their quiet champion, Danni Mac McCormack, the Ironheart of Limerick. Karolina Wojcik, Poland's striking powerhouse. If you watch Karolina Wojcik fight, you know she comes to swing, pressure, and punish. Every strike is thrown with intent. Every fight feels like a street war disguised as sport. Before becoming Poland's next big MMA export, Karolina was a tough kid from Swidnica. She trained in small, sweaty rooms with cracked mats. Her roots are in boxing and kickboxing, and it shows. Her hands are fast and ruthless, but her composure is her edge. She'll smile mid-fight, taunting, breaking confidence before breaking the body. She built a reputation across Europe as a technical brawler, earning a spot in KSW, Poland's biggest MMA organization. When Invicta FC called, she flew across the ocean to chase bigger challenges. There, she earned the nickname the Polish Assassin. Her style is chaos with control, fast combinations, low kicks, and a spirit that refuses to fade. You can outsize her, but you can't break her. She'll get up, grin, and turn fights around in seconds. Wojcik represents the next wave of Polish MMA. Fighters who mix brutality with precision, chaos with patience. She may not headline cards yet, but she is a storm wrapped in silence. When that cage door closes, Poland's striking powerhouse is terrifyingly beautiful, unbreakable. Stephanie Luciano, Brazil's next Muay Thai export. Stephanie Luciano doesn't just throw punches. She paints violence with rhythm. In Brazil's Muay Thai scene, she's whispered about like a storm on the horizon. Luciano grew up in Sao Paulo, where fighting is survival and escape. She started with kickboxing, showing early flashes of brilliance, sharp knees, slick head movement, and dangerous calm. She transitioned to Muay Thai, fusing classic Thai technique with Brazilian aggression. Elbows like razors, low kicks that echo. After claiming multiple Muay Thai titles, she jumped to MMA, testing her striking in the cage's chaos. She had to learn the ground game and adapt. But Luciano doesn't panic. She evolves. Her trademark Muay Thai rhythm is still there, but now she's sprawling, defending takedowns and cracking opponents with unexpected combinations. Promoters compare her to Poland's Joanna Jędrzejczyk, calling her a Nova Joanna. But Luciano wants to be the first Stephanie Luciano, the face of Brazil's next striking generation. Her style is the grit of the Favelas mixed with the grace of a world-class Muay Thai artist. She came from nothing, and her fight style speaks its own poetry. She's a living reminder that when beauty and brutality meet, it hits like destiny. Shana Bannon, the fighting mom, redefining toughness. In MMA, toughness is often measured in scars, but Shana Bannon redefines it, fighting not for glory, but for her son. They call her Mama B in the Irish fight scene, and before every fight, she reminds herself, this is who I'm doing it for. Raised in Tallaght, Dublin, Bannon's early years were a struggle, juggling motherhood and training, waking before dawn, dropping her son at school, then rushing to the gym. No sponsorships, just relentless belief. She began in kickboxing, making a name with crisp striking and cardio, but she wanted to test herself in the cage. From regional Irish promotions to Invicta FC, her journey's been defined by grit. She isn't unstoppable, but every loss sharpened her, and every comeback became a statement. You can't count out a mother fighting for her child. In a sport full of egos, Shana brings humility and heart, openly discussing the struggle of balancing family, fighting, and finances. That vulnerability is her power. She represents every woman told she can't chase dreams because of motherhood. When she signed with Bellator in 2023, it was validation for every fighter who ever had to bring their own child to the gym. When the cage door closes, she's not just defending her record, she's defending a dream. Toughness isn't about never breaking. It's about showing up, bruised, exhausted, and fighting anyway. Shana Bannon fights for legacy, and that makes her truly dangerous. Yasmin Jauregui, Mexico's future star. That electric surge coming out of Mexico's fight scene has a name. Yasmin Jauregui, the young phenom from Tijuana, transforms when the cage door closes. Fast hands, relentless pressure, and a quiet smile. Born in 1999, Jauregui grew up in a rough part of Tijuana where fighting is survival. Her training started in small gyms with hand-me-down gloves. What she lacked in resources, she made up for in ferocity and an it factor, a composure and instinct that can't be taught. By 20, she was undefeated in Mexico's top regional promotions. When the UFC called in 2022, she debuted like a true Mexican warrior with a firefight. She went toe-to-toe with Yasmin Lucindo in a war that left fans speechless, announcing herself with the win. Her pressure style is relentless, but it's her attitude that stands out. She fights with joy, carrying the never-say-die spirit of Mexico. Training out of Entrim Gym, the same place that shaped Brandon Moreno, she's part of a generation creating opportunities at home. The Tijuana Tornado is fast, fearless, and impossible to ignore. When Yasmin Jauregui walks into that cage, she's fighting for her people, for every young girl in Mexico who dreams beyond her circumstances. You can overlook her, but you can't stop her once she starts believing. They may not have millions of followers or massive sponsorships, but these women are the heartbeat of MMA's future. While the world cheers for the names everyone knows, these fighters are writing the next chapter in silence, through bruises, broken bones, and relentless belief. Someday, when the lights finally turn their way, the world will realize that greatness was already there, quietly waiting in the shadows. Their stories remind us that the fight isn't always about fame. Sometimes it's about survival. Sometimes it's about pride. It's about proving that you belong here. In this sport, talent might get you noticed, but heart is what keeps you standing. And these women have more heart than most ever will.